Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select ProjectME Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectME with Tiffany. Welcome to the podcast and posse, ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. I'm your host, Tiffany, and today we are going to take you to a completely different realm. We are going to go down a path of transforming your consciousness. And before you're like, what in the heck, girl? What's happening over here? Have an open mind, because this will bring about the abundance that you so deeply desire in your life, and we'll be coming at it from a different way. So I brought on one of my new friends, Vanessa Valdez. She's a popular Los Angeles radio host of the show Transforming Consciousness on KPFG 90.7 FM. And I'll tell you later how you guys can listen to the show anywhere in the world. Her focus is as a transformational life coach, and she uses integrative healing and spiritual psychology to help people break through blocks and barriers that they're having in their lives around all different types of areas. So listen in, listen close, and let's attract abundance into your life right now. Hey, Vanessa.
Hello, Tiffany. So great to be here with you.
I just found out, you guys, that I am Vanessa's first podcast. So your virginity has been taken.
There we go. Absolutely. I'm so honored, and it's such a pleasure, and just continuing to trust the process of whomever it is to share this platform for the first time.
So tell us, I know some of your story, but what's so interesting to me and what is so inspirational to me is that you made a really big pivot in your life. I mean, it's not like you were someone who was into all of this stuff, right? Right. From an early age. You made a big pivot. Can you tell us a little bit about like what you were doing before and how you got into spiritual psychology?
Absolutely. So it's been quite the trajectory. About 15 years ago, I went to UCLA and I studied journalism. And at the time, my dream was to become a news reporter. So I did all I could to become my dream. And so I did internships at KTLA. I did internships at Channel 34, which is Univision, Spanish language television. And so that's where it all started. And then from there, I worked there. I got hired as the personal assistant to the news director. So I just, I worked my way up. And then from there, I relocated to Washington, D.C. to become my dream, which was the news reporter that I always dreamed to become. And what was so interesting, Tiffany, is in that moment, I became very frustrated and very angry with myself, because I would wonder, why was it that I did not have the passion that I thought I did? And so it really took me into these really dark tunnels of finding myself and trying to figure out what I later found out. It was about finding my niche. And so in those moments, here I am, in contemplation and frustration and anger with myself, because I would ask God, why is it that I have a show? Why is it that I'm working in television? I'm basically living, quote unquote, the American dream, and I was not happy. I was not content. So I decided to relocate back to Los Angeles. And it was a really hard time for me, Tiffany, because it felt like I had to start from scratch. And so here we are. People knew that I worked as a news reporter and quote unquote, I was living the American dream. All of a sudden, that was not the case. That was not my reality. That was not the truth. And I started working, at a grocery market at the time. And so I literally hid from the world. I did not want to be questioned. I felt embarrassed. I felt like a failure to tell people, listen, I'm actually working as a volunteer at a local newspaper, riding my bike there because I can't even afford a car. And I'm not a news reporter anymore. So in those moments, tracing back in time, now that I'm speaking to you 15 years ago, it was such a blessing. And what I mean by that is that it allowed me the opportunity to really connect with God and have a relationship with God. And I had plenty of time to be with myself, to be in that stillness that we oftentimes criticize and we judge. And it's in those times of stillness when we actually can become even more proactive in the sense of connecting to what truly matters. So in that time, I became best friends with God. And, here I am just allowing myself to be guided through this process of these dark tunnels that kept coming by. And so I heard this inner voice say to me, you are a journalist. You are a news reporter. It's about finding your niche. And so here we are going into this exploration of discovery of like, what is my niche? If it's in my soul, if it's my birthright already to be a journalist, what's the niche? And so that led me into this whole realm of discovery that led me into a master's degree in spiritual psychology a few years ago. And my life has completely changed ever since. That was sort of kind of what I like to call the foundation, the stepping stone into where I am now, working on my PhD in depth psychology with a specialization in integrative healing. So all in all, I'm now like 15 years later, starting to see how all the puzzles have been coming together. And even with that being said, there's still puzzles that are still in the unknowing, but it just feels so refreshing to now be able to take ownership and say, I am a journalist and this is my niche. And now I'm very passionate about all those stories that are assigned my way.
Oh my God. It makes me well up with tears because we have very similar stories. Because, and listeners, longtime listeners, you guys know I was also a TV newscaster. I was in Washington, but Washington State. And I quit. I quit that like quintessential 4-hour CBS morning show. It's a lot of airtime. People like dream to have that spot. I couldn't do it anymore. And I like how you said that was very, very helpful when you said you wanted to hide, because I know a lot of people have that feeling. You just don't want to be seen. You worked at a grocery store. I came back to LA. I worked on Ventura Boulevard at like a doggy daycare cleaning up shit.
That's real world reality. These are the stories it's so important to talk about it, because I feel that then we start to notice people are relating. People have these stories, and it's time. It's really time, because those are actually the stories that I love to talk about more than what I'm being right now, because it's thanks to those stories, the reason why I'm even here and I made it this far, and for the more to come.
Now, you've mentioned God a few times, and, whatever God is to you, right? It's the God of your understanding. Did you have a spiritual relationship with the God of your understanding when you were in Washington, D.C. and you were so unhappy?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I grew up Catholic. So I come from an upbringing, very structured, very, what you see in church, that's Jesus, and the cross, he sacrificed his life for us. So we owe him, and it's all about him, 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 him. So very masculine energy, very hierarchy, very much into, you have to pray every day. So that was my upbringing. When I was in Washington, D.C., it actually allowed me to really take ownership of my wings as best I could, in terms of even finding who is God and what does God represent to me. So for me, when it comes to God, there is no gender. It's not gender based. It's not she. It's not he. It's an energy that is much more potent in the sense of I like to say that we're so ignorant that we can't be with ourselves. We need this higher power to allow us to guide us into whatever it is that we're trying to achieve or be in. So it's just, it's the God and the goddess energy. It's Mother Nature, and Mother Nature actually is feminine, and it goes through the cycles that we as women also go through. So I'm very connected with the goddess energy, and I'm very connected just with the energy itself more than calling it, whether you want to call it God, which is, I feel comfortable enough to say God, but it could also be higher source. It could be that inner voice. It could be your angels. It could be whatever it is, but it's always a higher source, much more elevated than us, that actually resides inside of us. But a lot of people are not aware of that.
So you left Washington, D.C., came back to L.A. You were hiding, right? And what led you to want to actually go so far as getting a master's in spiritual psychology? I mean, it's one thing to be, exploring your spirituality and meditating or whatever, doing stuff like that. But you really went for it. What made you go that far with it?
Well, it's interesting because I did not know at the time. I really did not know. Talk about really learning, because it's so easy nowadays to say, accept, surrender, have the courage, but to really be in that energy and not know what the outcome will be, not know what is in the unknowing. That's why it's called the unknowing. So for me at the time, it was just God, continue to guide me, be with me. Take me to those realms, surround me with the people that I need to be with to gain more clarity around where I need to be with this niche that you're asking of me to explore. So at the time, I had no idea there was such thing as a master's degree in spiritual psychology. When I came across this program, I was blown away. And I was even more blown away when I found out that it was just 10 miles from where I was residing at the time. So talk about, oftentimes we tend to think we need to travel so far to find ourselves, and it's just 10 miles away.
Yeah, we travel and then there we are, right?
Right.
And then there we are. So many people, and I know you guys listening can probably relate, where you might have felt stuck at one point in your life, or you feel stuck now. Something's not clicking. You're resonating with Vanessa's story. Like, on the outside, she's on TV in Washington, D.C. She worked her way up to that. Like, people covet her job, right? But she wasn't happy. Maybe it's like you have a wonderful spouse and kids and, you should be happy, or you have a pretty decent job. You should be happy, but you're not. And when we're stuck, it's often because we're confused. There's not clarity, right? And you've mentioned clarity quite a few times. What are some ways that people can help themselves find that clarity they're so craving?
Yeah, we're all craving that for sure. I mean, that's definitely something that we all have in common. As far as to gain that clarity, it's really about, because what happens, at least in my understanding, my experience, my knowledge, my really just being in that energy, there's two voices that reside inside of us. So we have the one that, call it the ego, call it whatever that is, but there's another voice that resides inside of us that is more or less what I like to call the chatter. So it's that chatter that will constantly, and personally, even now with why I'm being and where I am in my life 15 years later, I'm still being with that chatter, right? So notice that I'm saying not dealing with the chatter or battling with the chatter. I'm just being with the chatter. The chatter never goes away. So that's one thing we need to be clear as far as gaining your clarity. That chatter will always reside inside of you. Now we have the other voice. The other voice is the voice of the soul, your calling. So it goes into, trusting the process, allowing yourself to truly surrender, not at 90%, but at literally 100.10%, if you may will. And it takes time. It really does take time. So with that, in the midst of people finding their clarity, allowing yourselves to be gentle in that process, because it's so easy, Tiffany, to go into those realms of self-judgment around, well, I've been working the process for 5 years and I still don't have the clarity, so to speak. So just allowing yourself to be very gentle with yourself and know that everything is timing. Everything is timing. I could not reiterate that even further because I've been just having conversations with people around wanting to find the clarity. And it's just really about planting your seeds every single day. So in a nutshell, I would just say, pay attention to the chatter. And instead of battling with that chatter or giving it too much attention, it's really about just being with the chatter, listen, and continue to move forward. That is the best that I can possibly convey at this point. Continue to move forward. And with that, you're basically telling the chatter, I hear you, I'm being with you, thank you, and I'm walking forward. You're not battling, you're not questioning it, you're not asking it, why are you here? Stop bothering me, right? Or, fill in the blanks. You're basically just being very gentle with that energy. However, you are continuing to move forward because that's really, if you have a mission, which we all do, and you have a goal in mind, continue to move forward and disregard the time of when you will get to whatever it is that you need to get to. Just move forward.
Oh my God, I have so many questions. I'm so excited. I love talking about this stuff. So you said, kind of like let go of, the timing. And that is so difficult for so many of us because we're in such an instant gratification society. We all want it now. We all want add to cart and have it show up a day later. We want it when we want it. Our ego wants it. People are listening who are in debt or, living paycheck to paycheck. They want them, they want the money now. How do you let go of that fear energy of wanting to control time when you want it so bad right now? Like, how do you let that go?
How do you let it go? Well, that's a great question. And we can definitely play with that for sure. What I can tell the listeners that are tuned in right now, I'm not here to tell you what to do or what not to do. It's almost like I'm perceiving and seeing and feeling all of you as if you were my clients, as if you were a family member, a loved one, a friend, just really sharing my story. And with that, trusting that to some degree, I'm kind of being like that beacon of light so that you can really take ownership of your own power without me necessarily telling you, how to let go of that control. With that being said, when it comes to, time and control and wanting things right away, I've been there. We've all been there. And so I'll go back into my story and see if I can support people in terms of answering the question, best way possible. Because I've been there, I can tell the listeners that you may well obtain what you've been wanting, whether that's the check or whether that's the boyfriend or whether that's, fill in the blanks. However, let's be very real that because it's timing, right? And it was not the soul's timing. It was your ego's timing. It's almost like karma. You will find yourself again in that situation. So instead of how to get rid of control, I just want to leave the listeners with that. You can continue on that path. You can continue, creating your own path, your own pace, your own tone. That's fine. However, it will be like karma and it will come back until you finally learn the lesson that it's not under your timing. It's under the timing of the soul.
It's divine timing. Even something as stupid as this, and tell me if you think I'm nuts, Vanessa, is like, let's say I get a little freaky, my Virgo-ness, if I lose something, like an earring, keys, okay? Like the coffee cup that was on top of my car today. And I'm like, where's my fucking coffee? It was on top of my car. And I will start going, God, where is it? I was looking for a thumb drive earlier with my presentation slides on it for this week that I was like, of course, I didn't have it backed up anywhere. And I'm like, where is this? Where is this? And I caught myself in that energy of, oh my God, I need it. It's a fear energy, right? Where is it? I need to control it. I'm ripping things apart. And I caught myself just from all the work I've done over the years. And I went, you know what? It'll appear when it appears. And if it doesn't, then maybe that wasn't the talk I was supposed to give. Maybe I'm supposed to create new slides. And I truly surrendered, like you said, like not 90%, 110%. Within 2 minutes, there was the damn thumb drive in my sweatpant pocket. Thank you.
Well, that was your story. And just recently, I had a similar situation with my wallet. I couldn't find my wallet, right? So here we go, the ego, that voice of you cannot drive, right? You cannot drive without your driver's license. You can't do, it's almost like you are, you're limited at this point. So I had to make that choice. And again, life is nothing but a mere glimpse of our choices. And it's really that simple. It takes time, and I'm going to repeat that again. Life is nothing but a mere glimpse of your choices. And it's so important for people to realize that, because we live in a world where we either take responsibility or we play the victim. And it's so much more easier, right, to play the victim, blaming others for what can happen to you. So in my case, it was a chatter of like, it's time to blame your surroundings. Someone took it. Ask for it, demand for it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I had to really be with the chatter. Again, it's about being with the chatter. And then I sat down and I actually reminded myself what my father would tell me when I was younger, and even later in life, in my 30s, he would say, when I lose something, I just close my eyes, because there's something very magnificent that happens when you close your eyes, when you can immediately connect with that inner source. And then let it go and it will come to you. So that's what I did. And I actually just found my wallet an hour before this podcast.
Oh, wow. What a good example. So I wanted to give you guys like an example that's not as heavy as, should I divorce my husband or not? Or, should I start a business or not? Should I hire a coach or not? Should I move? Should I invest in this? Should I quit my job or not? I know so many of you have those big, heavy questions, but the same principles apply in terms of getting that divine guidance. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree. And what I would love to add as well, Tiffany, is we live in a society where we use the word a lot, should. And so I want the listeners to know that the word should is an illusion. It's such illusion in the same way of when you say, I'm ready, or the fear of like, am I fully ready, quote unquote, to get married or to make that commitment or for that job, whatever that is, that's also an illusion. We're not fully ready for anything. You are as fully ready as you can possibly be where you are. So like, for example, with me in my first podcast with you, which by the way, I've had a couple other offers, but I'm always about, it needs to be in alignment with where I am. And obviously you are in alignment with transforming consciousness, and I'm all for that. So it's really about letting go of the should I, right? Because when you ask, should I do this? Should I get married? Should I divorce? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're actually giving your power to someone else, because you're questioning the process and you're not taking ownership of your power. So instead of saying, should I, is about really in the best way that you can possibly reside around the energy of setting intentions. So my intention is to be free. My intention is to allow prosperity and abundance to come my way, instead of asking yourself, should I get this job because it's going to pay more money? So it's really about reframing and shifting the mindset and the words, because everything is really wording, and words are very sacred in the way that you convey them. So letting go of the should I and just allowing yourself to be more intentional in the way that you talk.
I love that. So you're repositioning it to stating your intention to yourself, to the universe. And when you state your intention, you want to fill in the blank with your true desired feeling. Is that correct? Like
Absolutely.
My desire to be free, my desire to have serenity. Because when you peel back the layers, let me tell you guys something. I know you think you want money. And yes, money's important. Money's a powerful energy. I'm all about money. I love money, all the things. But it's really not about money. What does money represent to you? Like, peel back those layers a little more. Is it freedom? Is it peace of mind? Peel back those layers more. I love that exercise. You're right. So many people, and I'm sure I do it too, and I don't realize it until you just pointed it out, we'll ask this question, whether it's in our heads out loud or really, a lot of the people who coach with me will say it. Tiffany, should I do this? Should I quit my job? Should I start an Instagram account? Should I? And you're right. It's taking your own power. Who are you waiting for an answer for?
Right. Absolutely. which is why when I meet with clients, and it's a very common thread. So it is what it is, right? Should I do this or should I do that? I trace it back into, tap into your soul, and what are you hearing? What do you mean by that? Because what happens is, when it comes to intuitive coaching and guiding someone through their process, when you're guiding someone through their process, is not about really telling them what to do by answering their should I's, right? So it's really about supporting the process, guiding the process so they can take ownership of their power. Because the reality is, Tiffany, this is going to be very interesting for many to hear, because when I first came to that realization, I was like, that can't be possible. We all have the answers inside of us. All the questions that we're seeking for answers, those answers reside inside of us. And so how are we going to receive and obtain those answers is really tapping into the soul of what I was referring to earlier. And with that, obviously, it's a process. So allowing yourself to tap into that energy, and it's all timing. And I say this because I've been in situations, Tiffany, where people will ask me, okay, so then I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to start doing this. And then they come back and they say, it's not happening yet. I'm not hearing those answers. However, if you listen to someone when they say that, you want to let go of the expectation. It's almost like you're being, not actually being, you're doing it for an expectation. And it's not about doing it for an expectation. It's about being in that energy and trusting that the answer will come through in divine timing when you're ready for it. Not when you think you're ready for it, but when you actually are ready for it.
Oh, this is so powerful, because it's like, yes, Vanessa, Tiffany, I meditated, nothing's happening. You guys said to get quiet because that's when the answers come. I got quiet, nothing's happening. But your ego's still involved there, because you're basically saying, I'll do these things, but you better give me this, universe. You better give me this, God. And it doesn't work like that.
Right. It's like saying, I'm going to start meditating because I'm calling in that man, I want to get married, or whatever that is. Again, fill in the blanks, whatever it is that you're desiring and longing for. However, there's that energy of an expectation. And it's really about reframing and tapping into your soul and really letting go of that expectation, because whatever it is that you're being, when you learn to be instead of do, what's going to happen is that you're going to start to meditate, or you're going to whatever that practice that resonates the most for you. And then you're going to realize, wait a second, you're being with all this energy for you, not for that expectation or not for others. And it's when you focus it on yourself, it's not a selfish act. When you focus it on yourself is when everything else starts to align, because your mind was not out there for that expectation or that person to come your way. I recently had someone, we were having a session around, I want to get married. Where is he? Where is he? I actually had her in that session. I mean, practically the whole session. Sometimes it could be just listening or really screaming, but I gave her a pillow and I say, here, take ownership. There's no need to judge yourself for asking the universe. Here's a pillow, and just let it all out. And the whole hour she was there, literally just hitting the pillow. Where is he? Where is he? And then after that, it's like the moment of stillness where you're like, ah. You don't need to judge yourself for even asking the question. It's okay. However, for how long are you going to be in that energy? So that's another thing for the listeners. It's okay when you ask the should I questions, or you're wanting the clarity, or you have the expectation, becoming conscious of that energy that is so much more different than the one that I'm talking about, right? And so with that being said, let it out. And when you let it out, really and truly give it to the waves, give it to the ocean, let it go. And then just really tap into yourself around being with this energy for you. So whether that's the wanting to be married, right? Wanting to find the man, working around your own radiance. So when you focus it on yourself, so for those people, we're using actually the example of marriage. We'll go with that for now. If you want to get married, instead of focusing on want to get married, I want to find partnership, focus it on yourself, your own self radiant, because it's all about energy, guys. I mean, you can get married, sure. I mean, it's not that hard. I'll tell you, there's a lot of fish out there. Okay. I'm at the gym right now. I mean, there's a lot of yumminess everywhere. And so it's all open. It's all there. However, it's all energy, right? So you can manifest. You can manifest all you want. You can do all the vision boarding and so on and so forth. And surely enough, you can get married at some point. You can meet the man. But it's not going to work out because you were so focused on them versus really working around your own radiance and your own shine and your own power to call in that energy and divine timing. Does that make sense?
I love it. And the same principle holds true, you guys, when you're in the scroll hole, you know, on Instagram or Facebook, and you're looking at it like, oh, this person looks happy. This person's more successful than me. Oh, you know, this girl's doing what I want to be doing and she has more credentials, or, you know, maybe they want to get a degree in spiritual psychology and you're hearing this episode right now and, oh my God, you know, there's someone like Vanessa, but she's so, you know, she's so far advanced than me. Like, what's the point of me going after it? I wouldn't be able to make money doing it. Like she said, how long are you going to stay in that energy? That energy absolutely does nothing for you, and come back and focus on yourself. Instead of focusing on Vanessa, focusing on the, you know, skinny girl with the long blonde hair that's claiming she makes millions of dollars. Maybe she does. Who knows? You know, instead of focusing on them, how about you take that energy and pour it back into yourself? Right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Pour it back into yourself. And also too, because you're using the example of comparison. And that is huge in our society. You know, we oftentimes find ourselves comparing. So for those people out there that are tuned in, because I know we've all done this at some point, there's no such thing as I've never compared myself with someone else. When you're in that kind of what I like to call low frequency energy, always remember that if, let's just say, for example, Tiffany and myself, oh, I want to be where Vanessa is. I want to be where Tiffany is. You need to know that there will never in the world again be another Tiffany Carter. She does Tiffany Carter best she can, and she's the only one that can. I, Vanessa Valdez, there will never again be another Vanessa Valdez. So it doesn't matter how much you may try to be like us or mimic, you will never be us. It's about finding your own creative gift in your own distinctive way, because you also have your own distinctive power to share it outwards within the universe in whatever capacity that you want to, whether that's journalism, business, you name it. So when it comes to comparisons, you know, I just say, you know, it's low frequency. You can go for it. You can waste your time. Will you? But it's not going to serve you in any way to compare yourself. And by the end of the day, you're going to go back into this, what I like to call the spiral. This spiral effect of like, why isn't it not happening for me, but it's happening for everyone else? That's because you've invested so much time, again, not on yourself, but on others, focusing yourself that you want to be like someone else. And that will never happen.
Well, that sounds kind of like a pointless thing to do now, doesn't it? I'm picturing all of your faces like, wow, I've wasted a lot of hours in my life. But, you know, until you're made aware of it and the power behind it, you might even be aware you're doing it like, okay, I need to get off. Like, I need to, you know, like turn off my phone or something. But until you really realize what Vanessa's, you know, explaining to you in terms of like the spiritual psychology end of it, on how this lowers your frequency and you're in a low vibrational state and you can't attract any of the abundance or the self-radiance from that low vibe spot, I have a feeling a lot of you are going to significantly cut down the amount of time you go into that comparing. Like you said, we all fall into it. Like when I'm tired or PMSing, I have a tendency to do that, but I catch myself faster now, you know, than maybe I did years ago, right?
Right. Another thing too that's coming through for me right now is as we, you know, we're in that low frequency energy of comparison. I've had in the past, you know, people recently, maybe like in the last couple of years, tell me, oh, you know, I want to be you, or I want to have a radio show, or I want to, you know, do, not be, you know, they're telling me do spiritual psychology, or I want to be in this PhD program, or whatever that is. And so it's so interesting because oftentimes people may perceive what I'm going to say in a negative way, but I have to keep it really real. If you want to be, let's just say, for example, we're using me right now as an example. If you want to be where I am, be where I was before. Oh, and people do not want to be where I was before. So why am I saying that? Because you learn from your teachers and your masters, right? And one of my spiritual professors a few years ago, he was talking about how Oprah, we all love Oprah. We all want to be around her energy. We all want to, create something with her, be in collaboration, you name it. And Oprah said 10 years ago to those people, if you want to be Oprah or close enough to what I'm being right now, do you want to be where I was before? And absolutely not. No, people are scared and fearful of the sacrifice, of the work, or fill in the blanks. But the reality is that we live in a society that we want to skip those steps. We want to skip the dark tunnels, and we just want to become Oprah. We just want to become Tiffany Carter. We just want to become Vanessa. And that's okay. But always remember that there's a story that is pretty dark behind all that. And so it's not about really dismissing or skipping the steps, because if you do, again, it's like that karma that I was telling you prior, it will come back. So just be mindful of that. Whatever it is that you idolize or your role models or whatever that is, always know everybody has a dark story behind them. And you are to be willing enough to say, remembering that we all have our own distinctive curriculum, right? So let's just say, for example, my curriculum was 5 years of depression, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean you need to be in a 5-year depression. However, always remember within your own distinctive, unique curriculum, you cannot bypass, you cannot avoid or really not be in that dark energy, because it's going to come one way or another. And it's not going to really be about what happens as much as it is how you reside in that energy.
I love that. So those of you who are going through the shit right now, the dark night of the soul, and I know I attract a lot of you to my energy because I'm very open about my story and being there for so many years, and I've, triumphed. But like Vanessa said, the reason I've even triumphed, and I can use the word triumphed or survived or, whatever word we want to put there, is because I was in the dark night of the soul. You guys see what I'm saying? Like, it's not like we found a trampoline down there and jumped, got on there, bounced a couple times and got out. Like, mama crawled her ass out very, very, very slowly. And not to say your path's going to be as long as mine, but there is no way to avoid pain. You have to go through pain. There's no way to avoid it. So if you're going through the crap right now, this is all part of your process, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And I'll tell you, Tiffany, because obviously the conversations that we've had, and obviously you were in my radio show, and the listeners just loved you in terms of your transparency. There is a common thread also that I want to, pay some attention to, is that I am coming across people as you and myself, and obviously we're bringing in the energy of Oprah, so I'm all for that too. We're channeling her energy.
What's up, Opes?
What's up, Oprah? I know she's here listening. So with that being said, I am noticing this common thread around people. It's so much easier to share your story, right? Like saying in the past. So like, for example, for me, like 15 years ago, this was my story. I was in the dark tunnels. I couldn't find myself. I was miserable working at a grocery store, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now I'm letting you know that I'm at the other side. I am not in the tunnel. I'm on the other side. So what I'm saying is that common thread, I'm seeing more repetition of, but I also want the listeners to know that that's our story. And this is where we are because we've been planting seeds. Remember, it's about the tree of life, planting your seeds every single day. With that being said, I can't speak for Oprah and I cannot speak for you, Tiffany, but I can speak for myself. So people may see me right now on air. People may see me in my PhD program. People may just see me out and about, and they may well be thinking I'm living the life. The reality is this: I am still being with those dark tunnels. I am still in that energy. What has changed, however, is how I'm being in that energy. I am no longer battling. I'm no longer feeding it. However, the darkness resides now in a different way for me within my household dynamic. And I'm just showing up differently than before. I'm not playing the victim. I'm taking responsibility and I am not fighting the process and I am moving forward best I can. So it's so important for me to share this because it's easier to say, well, this was me before. No, this is my story right now. And those dark tunnels or whatever in whatever capacity that you want to convey, but the darkness, the shadows are there. They have not gone away. It's just that I'm showing up different in the world. And that's the only change.
That was so beautifully said. They don't go away. This is part of the human experience. You guys know that's why I always say, I share my shit and I share the glory and all the in between. And there's a lot of #basic times in between, right? that aren't that interesting. But yeah, there's days I've had, I had a 6-week period this year and I think I shared it in maybe in my membership group, but I had a 6-week period that I had a really, really rough time. But like you said, I moved through it differently, much differently. And quite frankly, I guess you could say faster. I didn't stay in that energy as long. If we moved back even 6 years ago, that would have been not 6 weeks, it would have been 6 months. And it would have gotten very low and I would have, done things like that were more abusive to myself, like overeat or, things like that. So it never goes away though. It never goes away.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously now within our society, media plays such huge role where we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, where everyone's lives looks pretty perfect, and I will even, and again, I can't speak for others, but even myself, I like to tease myself because I'm new to Instagram. So by the way, Tiffany, you've been stretching me when I brought you on air with me where you're like, let's add this to your to your Instagram. And I'm open, right? I'm open for all that. With that being said, I'm in the journey of stretching myself where I'm like, Instagram, just a few months ago, I'm like, why would I need Instagram? I don't need Instagram. Why do people need to know what I'm up to? So I decided to create it in a way that it's more business oriented. And my judgment from the past was, I don't want that because everyone's life on Instagram looks perfect. I already have enough with Facebook. So it was interesting that now, as I'm scrolling through my pictures and my images on Instagram, I'm like, so interesting that my life looks perfect too. So now I'm in that energy, right? Where my life looks perfect too. So this is why it's so important to convey. And thank you also, Tiffany, for sharing your own story, not because life looks perfect on Instagram or Facebook, does that mean that you're living the life? For me, it's just, I have a passion and I have a purpose and I'm a woman with a purpose in life. Like, this is my mission. And I just get goosebumps because every day I'm just planting the seeds, regardless of the shadow, regardless of the light. I'm just continuing to move forward. And, every week on Tuesdays, I have my show. I'm passionate, so much juiciness and yumminess that comes through. However, when you go on Instagram, you see the subject line, you see the smiles, you see all of that. However, do you even know what Vanessa went through after going off air? Are you aware that I had to go caretake for someone that needs me who's ill? Are you aware that I had to sleep at 2 a.m. because I got into a fight with a parent? I mean, just so much that comes into play. And again, that kind of low frequency energy will always be around. You have to continue to move forward and just be with it. And so it is.
Oh my God. You're incredible. So you guys, great news. So first of all, you have to go follow Vanessa on Instagram because she's new to it. And I want her to see how much impact she can have on people with Instagram. So go follow her at Transforming Consciousness. Okay. It's that simple. You'll find her on there. But her radio show, which is also Transforming Consciousness on KPFG 90.7 FM in Los Angeles. For all my
Tiffany?
listeners, did I get it
wrong? Sorry. No. You're fine. That's just because you mentioned earlier, you mentioned KPFG. It's KPFK.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of another station, KPFK. Sorry, guys. Thanks for correcting me. Yeah, so you guys you don't have to listen to it live. You can be in Italy, you can be in New Hampshire and still access the show. So Vanessa, tell the people how they can listen to the show both live and how they can access episodes that are available for replay for a limited time.
Absolutely. So my segments are every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So it's a 1 hour segment. And those are generally live. They're rarely ever recorded just because I love the engagement of the listeners. And I like to honor that for them who, asking questions for the guest. So that takes place on Tuesdays. Now, for people internationally, there's two ways. You can go on www.kpfk.org and just press on archives. When you press on archives and you just scroll down to Transforming Consciousness, you can press on the replay and then you can listen to the entire segment. And on the right-hand side, you're going to be able to see a button that says download. So for those that may be wanting to listen to it again, because it does delete after a week on our KPFK archives, you're able to download it to your computer and you can listen to it whenever. The other way is we have a Pacifica Radio app on your smartphone. So if you were to download the Pacifica Radio app, you can listen to us live there as well.
So she also takes live callers. I don't know if it's every episode, but you did it on my episode.
I did, yeah.
Which is really fun. It's really fun to participate in that and call in, and she repeats the number like 100 times. So I want you guys to listen to the show. That's what we have to do, right? Because it's like, what's the number I wanted to call you? This was so beautiful having you. If you guys had an aha moment while listening to this, do me a favor. Take a screenshot right now. Share this on social media. Tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany. Tag Vanessa at Transforming Consciousness so that you can share this with other people who are in the midst of the struggle, who are saying they're stuck, who are using the word should a lot, and spread this energy around, that frequency of what was taught today. And this will only up-level your own frequency and other people. Like, what a beautiful gift. So share it right now, take a screenshot, and we would both love to see what your outtakes are from the show. Now, if people want to contact you and work with you, what's the best way, Vanessa, for them to find you and talk to you and all the things?
Sure. So like you mentioned earlier, my Instagram under Transforming Consciousness, you can reach me there. And then also too, my KPFK email is transformingconsciousness@kpfk.org.
Simple as that, you guys. Now, do you offer private coaching sessions for people?
I do. I'm an intuitive healer. So I do 60 minutes and 90-minute sessions. And I have my space where I facilitate and guide people through their process here in West LA. So if you reach out to me, I'm happy to, guide you through that process and provide you the information needed.
Well, that sounds amazing, you guys. So hit her up, hit me up. And again, take a screenshot and let us know what you thought of the show and share this energy, because whoever is listening to this, there's no way that you didn't take out one thing from hearing us, whether that is to surrender 110%, whether it's to stop comparing yourself as often, whether it's to trusting the process. There's so many gems in here. I can't wait to hear what you guys thought of it. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for coming on and sharing your light and your wisdom. You're just amazing.
Thank you, Tiffany. It's quite the honor, and amazing that it's my first podcast. So very honored that I was with you. Thanks again.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.